Welcome to a Fresh Perspective podcast, catering to the latest in ingredient trends, consumer insights, and food news. Brought to you by Corbion.
Welcome to Fresh Perspective podcast, a podcast all about food, and it is officially our first podcast of 2021, or season 2. We've made it through an entire season, and we're back again.
And happy to be back.
How was your holiday?
It was good. I mean, it was kind of weird and like everything was really small, but that meant we got to, be a little fancier, a little bougier in all of our celebrations. And so that was fun.
Bougie.
Yeah. We had like some kind of roast Chateaubriand rather than a turkey because I was only feeding like 8 people rather than 40. So
how
was yours?
Sounds bougie. Same. I mean, my favorite thing is that I didn't have to eat all of the foods that you are obligated to eat when you go to like big gatherings, because I got to pick whatever I wanted. So Christmas lasagna, sure. Thai food, absolutely. Whatever you want. It's your holiday now. So now I've spent the last month trying to work off all of the glorious eating.
That's right. The holiday is brought to you by COVID.
Exactly. And we should probably introduce ourselves. I'm CJ, if you're just joining us, and this is your first podcast.
And I'm Jenny. Hi.
And we are your hosts through this glorious food tour. And today we're talking about fermentation. And I've learned so much about fermentation recently, and since joining Corbion, pretty much every single delicious food or drink comes from fermentation in some regard, like beer, wine, cheese, sourdough.
So all my favorite things, basically, are
sriracha,
fermented.
which I put on literally everything, is fermented in some capacity. So it's literally all of the things that are delicious are fermented somehow.
Agreed.
I feel, except for sauerkraut. I'm not a sauerkraut fan. I can't do that.
I mean, I can get behind it if I'm like in Wisconsin and that's like what they're serving.
Oh, you said it very Wisconsin.
Did I? I have family that is from there, so they're northern, and then my husband's family is from Minnesota.
Oh,
so you kind of can pick it up from wherever you are.
I'm from Kansas, and I say things like I'm from Kansas.
Like you're from Kansas. That's right.
Exactly. So in addition to learning or talking about fermentation, we're going to learn a lot about it as well. The process, the things that can make, all of the different variables that go into it to make it do the things that it does, make it work its magic.
I read a book once about, I think it was prisoners, and they were making their own booze by like smashing up old fruit and putting it in a boot and waiting for it to ferment. I feel like what we're going to learn today might be a little more precise, and I'm kind of excited to learn.
I think so.
Because if I was going to make booze, that's what I would think. Okay, I got to smash up a peach and stick it in my boot, and maybe it'll.
I've read an article once about squirrels doing that, about how they bury apples and they ferment in the ground, and then when they go to like unbury them and eat them, they end up
get
drunk squirrels. Yeah.
Oh,
that could
squirrels.
be. I mean, I believe everything I see on social media, so that could be a complete lie.
I think we should change the topic of this podcast to drunk squirrels. Mm-hmm.
I'm in.
I once had a greyhound eat a bunch of biscuits that were rising, and it got drunk because they were fermenting.
The more you know.
I know. And then I was all worried because he like fell into the table and laid on his back and was acting really strange. And so, okay, have we just gone down a drunk path? Should we reel it back in?
Rabbit hole. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's bring it in and let's introduce our guests.
Okay, let's do it. Today we have Kathy Sargent and Ricardo Moreira.
Kathy is the Director of Global Strategy at Corbion, and Ricardo is the Global Product Manager for Preservation at Corbion. And welcome.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Judy.
They are going to school us in fermentation and everything that goes along with that. But first, do you guys have a favorite fermented food? I mean, it covers the gamut. Outside of wine, I think that's everybody's favorite.
Oh, that was my fave.
She's so disappointed.
Outside of that.
Cheese.
Outside of, Thank you, Kathy. Now I'm out of options. But
I had to go fast.
Salami is my, I would say salami in prosciutto will be my favorite one.
Oh, prosciutto.
Goes really well with wine and cheese.
I was going to say wine and cheese. It's like you've got a whole charcuterie board built.
Cheese.
The best is the really aged cheese that are well fermented and have the little like crystals in them that you can bite.
My favorite.
My fave.
I'm surprised
Yes.
nobody said beer, but that's fine.
I mean, I'll drink
I'll
beer
take
if
that
somebody's
too.
buying it for me, but I'm not going to probably buy it for my own self.
Hearing all of this, the gloriousness that comes from fermentation, it's a pretty magical thing that happens. And today we just want to take it back to the start. Act like
Perfect.
we don't know anything about fermentation. And that's going to be hard to do, I know.
Yes,
And
it's true.
maybe first just start out by telling us what fermentation is and what does it do in foods?
Okay, so I'll take that one. And it's probably one of the most ancient process that we have in order to produce some food. So as far as we can remember as humanity, we do something to preserve the food, right? So yeah, I harvest today, I make a bread, or I make something, but I mean I cannot stock these products forever without a fridge. So what do? They had few options in the past. They would put a lot of salt on meat, for example. They would just take the grape juice or the grapes and try to maybe dry them. It's really millennials back when they had no other option to preserve or to keep food safe for longer or staying good for longer.
So it's like, here, try some of these rotted grapes. I promise they're good.
You shouldn't do that. But there are so many good coincidences that when on the way, until somebody started to say, maybe if we put something of this, something of that, and start to control the process, I think that's when an entire new world happened, because then you have now, it's not only fermenting, but it's fermenting, adding something, fermenting and creating something unique, controlling the process, or using different stuff to ferment. So I think that's a very nice. I was one of my favorite processes, and for sure, as we said, like wine or any cheese or anything, it's always nice.
So
I'm envisioning everyone in their old caves with their little piles in the corner rotting. But the great thing with fermentation, and Ricardo's absolutely right, is it's a process that, foods and ingredients naturally go through to preserve themselves too. So that's what I think it's this idea of taking nature's ingenuity on how it protects itself by creating these different organic acids and breaking down food components that they can process and metabolize. And throughout that, we can kind of take advantage of all that flavor development and that preservation effect that Ricardo was describing that they discovered in the past as ways to save food so that it wasn't spoiled and dangerous. And now we bring that into our food systems today purposefully.
So now I have like 50 million questions, but I know that the way we do it at Corbion is very intricate, very scientific, very large scale. If you think, so I want to explore both sides. Can you tell me like what happens in a baked good when it's fermenting? And then maybe we can take a look at like how we then harness that, or kimchi or kombucha, like what is it actually doing to ferment? And then we can look at what we do to harness that energy. That power.
Kathy, you take
All right, I'll start, but you jump in because Ricardo is our sourdough expert. He experiments a lot at home.
Oh.
But within the bakery space, sourdough is one of the most extremes when you think about fermentation, even though we do various degrees of fermentation in a lot of different applications. But sourdough, because it tends to have some of the longest fermentation times, we even talk about having that mother starter. And what it is if you took something as simple as flour, so you grind up your wheat and you have your flour and you add water so that it has a medium where it can start to become active. There's natural bacteria within the flour. There's wild yeast present. So if you give it enough time and nurture that environment and let it feed a little bit, the natural enzymes are going to break some of the starch in the flour down and feed the yeast. that yeast is going to metabolize, the bacteria is going to start metabolizing. They're going to start developing organic acids, which are your lactic acids and your real flavored sourdough type flavors that are going to come through, and your alcohols. And then they're also going to start releasing that carbon dioxide and allow gassing and bubbling and expansion. And that's really the fundamentals of starting to make bread.
And that's the most fun part of it. Like, I mean, I've seen fermentation, here and there in small bits, but when I made sourdough for the first time and I fed my starter, I was like, oh, whoa, it's alive.
It's alive.
It like tripled in size and got all over my oven because I wasn't prepared for the liveliness of it.
One more question before we head into our favorite segment, Eat, Save, Give. Is it the same components in all fermented foods? So like in bakery, it's the yeast and the bacteria or the lacto fermentation that's going on to create those flavors. Is that the same in like pickles and in the kimchi or in the beer, or are you adding, or is it a different set of criteria?
Different foods would require different microorganisms or different processes. So, but there are some coincidences you would be surprised. For example, to produce ethanol or to produce beverage in general, you would use the same yeast they use in bread. This Saccharomyces cerevisiae, right? That's the species there. That's
fancy talk.
The fancy talk, the fancy name of the yeast, right? But that's pretty much used in many industries too, because it's over the years they could separate that microorganism, that bug, into a very nice performance. How can I say, DNA or genetics there played some role and they finally got a very nice yeast that could do a lot of things. But different foods would have different substrates or different microorganisms or enzymes that are going to be specific to that specific kind of food. So it's not everywhere. Yeast is probably the one that is more likely to be the most spread one. The second one, I would say, would be Lactobacillus. A lot of them are present in dairy industry, but also in our process, when we produce lactic acid or in many other meat products, they also use Lactobacillus. So these both guys are responsible for fermenting a lot of stuff out there that we love. That's for sure.
Oh,
it's legit, like a magical, like when you talk about it, I'm like, this sounds like Harry Potter. Like, you just put these together, sourdough, put this over here, you're gonna get pickles. Like, what is happening?
That's right.
But,
cheese with salt crystals.
Exactly. Well, we are joined by Kathy and Ricardo, who are schooling us in fermentation and just taking it back to the basics so we can build our fermentation knowledge. And we are diving in and exploring it all, but we're going to take a moment now to play a little game that always illuminates something about our guests called Eat, Save, Give.
Be prepared to share.
Now it's time for Eat, Save, Give, a thoughtful peek into the hearts, minds, and taste palates of our guests.
Eat, Save, Give, Ricardo. It's not nearly as terrifying as it sounds,
okay.
But we are going to give you 3 different food options. You are going to have to decide which one you are going to eat now, which one you are going to save for later, because some things are just really good when you save them and they're leftovers. Like, I'm trying to think of something, but pizza. And which one you are going to give away because you know someone else just really likes it, or you just really don't like it.
Okay.
So are you prepared for Eat, Save, Give?
Let's go for it. Okay.
Option 1, an acai bowl. Option 2, a grilled chicken salad, your choice of dressing. And option 3, shrimp and lemon risotto.
What was option 1?
An acai bowl.
I don't think I know what that is. What is an
You've got to explain that to me, CJ. I have a
acai bowl. You've never had an acai bowl? Usually you get them for breakfast.
Acai bowl. Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, for sure. I'll take that right now.
They're delicious. For those, it's usually like acai is like the berry or some sort of I think it's a berry antioxidant, and it's usually kind of frozen. It goes with like yogurt, granola.
Oh, I just realized I've been mispronouncing it my whole life.
What did she?
Acai.
Hey, I could be saying
I
it
know
wrong.
what you're talking
You could be right. I think it's acai, but I don't know now.
We pronounce in Brazil we
sorry.
pronounce acai,
Okay.
but it's very close. You got it. It's acai bowl would be my if I had it now. I mean, it has been a while since I had one, so that would be my pick for like if I could have it right now, I would have it right now.
Okay, so you're gonna eat that now.
Yes.
Which one are you gonna save for later?
I'm gonna save the salad for later, and it breaks my heart to really give that to someone else, but I'm in a diet, so I cannot take that nice.
So you're giving the risotto away.
I'm giving the risotto away. I don't know why, but I mean
that is
it sounds
painful.
delicious.
I mean, it is a painful choice.
It
but
is.
You have to give one of them away, and that's
Yeah.
that's the point of the game. What about you, Kathy?
Okay.
What are you gonna do?
I'm going to experience this acai bowl because I'm
Never had one
struggling to visualize. Is it, I mean, what goes with it? Is it yogurt? I mean, I know it's
Like
fruit.
yogurt, granola.
Lots of fruit.
Yeah, you can
Crunchy.
put whatever you
banana.
want in there.
Yes.
Sometimes they have like
Sounds
acai bowl bars at like hotels, or like in Vegas,
Oh.
they'll have an acai bowl bar, and you can go through and pick all the different things you want them to put on
Then
it.
yes, I'm eating that. I'm going to switch it up though. I think I'm going to go for the risotto. It splurges for my diet
There you
too, but
go.
it sounds so good and creamy and warm. I'll save that for later though. I'm going to eat my acai because that risotto I think will rewarm. And then the
That's probably
salad.
true.
Sorry.
Bye, salad.
Hit the road.
New Year's, same me. Not eating that salad. Oh, I love salads actually. Jenny, what are you doing?
I'm going to eat the risotto right now, even though it is not on my diet, and I don't care because I love risotto above all things. I am going to save my salad for later, and I'm going to not eat the acai bowl because I hate fruit, and I also hate yogurt. So that's going to be something that I'm not going
That's a
Yeah.
ludicrous statement.
fruit.
Oh.
Yuck.
You hate non-fermented fruit?
Right. Oh, yeah. The fermented kind I'm
Fermented
all
makes it way
over.
better.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a really good clarification.
We need some acai wine, some fermented acai.
I would try that. I would. All right, CJ, what's yours?
I'm gonna eat the chicken salad now because it's lunch and I'm hungry, and that sounds like a good, not heavy lunch. I'm gonna save the acai bowl for later, provided that all the components are separate. That way, nothing gets like soggy.
Soggy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, I guess, give away the risotto as well, even though that does break my heart a little bit because I love risotto. I actually don't
Right?
really. Shrimp
Yeah.
is very touch and go for me. Like I'm okay with it or I really hate it. So
Oh.
I don't. That's basically what made me decide. Okay. We are going to hop back in. We are joined by Ricardo and Kathy, who are schooling us in fermentation. And we've talked about how foods ferment on kind of a small scale and how they've done it through history. And now I want to take a look at how we do it. So if you take those natural processes that we're talking about and the way foods naturally create this fermented flavors and fermented products, how do we then take that and make it this awesome big commercial?
Very nice.
We at Corbion.
Yes.
Like how,
We at Corbion,
so how do we
right?
do it
Yeah.
here in our
Yeah.
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm excited
So,
to learn this.
no, that's nice. So at Corbion, things are just different from what happens in terms of biology by the size. So in terms of what we do is just pretty much expanding in terms of scale. But what changes, what really makes the difference, and that's what Corbion since 1931, maybe CJ, you would know better the dates back in there, but we have been doing this for many years, and as a fermentation experts, I think we gradually learned how to go from a process, a simple process of fermentation, to a point now that we control every single step of this process in many different ways. So you can control the microorganism. What kind of more microorganism is going to be used? How do you grow that? How fast you can get there? How you do in order to get less waste, to get a better flavor, to really make this as standard as it could be. Of course, if we take the learnings from bakery or any other kind of fermentation industry, wines, for example, right? Wines, every year we have a different wine, even though it's the same place that we took the grapes, is the same place that we are fermenting, is California, is the same sun. Everything can change there to a different wine in a point that it's just so nice and the flavor is rich. And the other year might be not. But that's the case of that industry. But in the case of Corbion, for example, we control these processes to make as standard as we could. So we wouldn't have that much variations, or there's no way that you can identify too much variations between lots. And that's, I think, where we gain a lot of know-how. The other thing is that if you also start to play with the temperatures, you start to control what kind of substrate you're going to use in Brazil instead the corn that you use in US, and then you go to the plant in Thailand and you learn something else using a different process, a different microorganism, a different substrate. That's the beauty of Corbion, that to have these tentacles. I'm comparing to an octopus now. we are touching everything, right? We are in every single continent, just learning a lot about these micro and also about the substrate and how to control this process to deliver the best, and how to blend these things with other components. So what if as you were saying, I think that's a very nice analogy for anybody that is trying to learn fermentation, how to play with this. So you go for Harry Potter, right? And a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and that's pretty much grows or increases the number of possibilities, controlling, giving food safety, giving clean label options. I mean, many different ways that you can now supply the market with solutions that are much more than just one or two ingredients, right?
That is so true, Ricardo. It's like the history of how long Corbion has been in fermentation allows us to optimize. I think so much of what you just said about having this global network. So essentially at Corbion, we take a food. So, tapioca, corn, sugar, depending on where we are, we take the local food, which is our substrate. We have our own library of microorganisms. So, we can pick and pull, and those microorganisms consume that food differently. We manage it in the process to give it controls, and then we get different outputs. So that's how we can have something completely unique and one of a kind to Corbion, and really leverage that we have unique ingredients that come out that have a specific function designed for our industries. So at Corbion, I think another incredible strength we have is having solutions that are fit to the product need, whether it's within our meat space, our sweet and savory, bakery. We really invest to those optimizations that make the ingredients most functional.
I know.
I think it's amazing that we can solution based on the things that we have. So somebody can come to us and say, we have a problem with this one product. We want it to do this instead of this. We want it to last longer. And we'll have an R&D team take a look at it, in some of the cases where we don't already have a product that does that. That was one of the coolest things I learned when I first, became a part of this team. And
after you get over the fact that you're just surrounded by geniuses all the time. That's what.
And there's that.
Everyone around me is a genius.
Yeah. By the way, CJ sits on one side of me. Ricardo sits on the other. Surrounded by geniuses.
These guys.
I don't know about that.
And now we know that over in Thailand or wherever else our plants are, that it's not just a giant vat of kimchi. It's so much more.
Big tank of magic.
Exactly. Well,
I love that.
Are out of time for today, but we really appreciate you guys joining us and teaching us and schooling us in fermentation. And we're going to have so many more conversations about this throughout the year to continue to build on this conversation and get more specific into some of the technicalities. And I know that here in the future, we'll have Amber joining us to tell us a little bit more about it from the meat side, and we'll explore it from a few different angles. But today, we thank you for your genius and your time. If you guys are looking for more information on fermentation, how magical it is in baked goods or on sourdough, or you're just looking to listen to old podcasts or read other articles about what's going on in the bakery market, you can head on over to thebakerstake.com and find all of that, while you're at it, you can make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast so you never miss a beat when it comes to food news. And on that note, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back soon with more awesome food news.
And don't forget, keep creating.